Over the past week or so, Disneyland has been sharing a lot of information about changes coming to the park, so in this video, we're going to talk about how you can get access to Disneyland's newest attraction on your next visit. We're also going to talk about changes coming to park hopping, which is very good news. We'll also talk about changes coming to New Orleans Square, and other changes throughout the resort. So let's dive in. So the past few updates on this channel, we've been talking about the new attraction that is coming to Disneyland, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which will be back in Toontown, and it is an awesome attraction. I've experienced it in Hollywood Studios at Walt Disney World, but this attraction is a lot of fun for the whole family. But Disneyland, as we predicted, is going to be using a virtual queue to give you access to it because they're expecting it to be very popular. So let's talk about how you can get access to it. There's two ways to do this. So first is twice a day, they are going to open up the virtual queue. And you need to be ready the moment that virtual queue opens and to get on there. So it will open at 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. each day. To get in at 7 a.m., you need to have a reservation for that day to Disneyland. If it's 1 p.m., you need to be having a reservation to either Disneyland or California Adventure with a park hopper to get in that day. This virtual queue will fill up in seconds and they will be gone, and you don't want that to happen to you, so I'm going to give you the tips and tricks I've learned from doing this multiple times at Disneyland and also at Walt Disney World for some of the attractions they've used it for there. So the most recent attraction Disney has had the virtual queue for is Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Epcot. And so I'm going to give you my tips and tricks, but let me start off with some very key things that you need to be ready before that 7 a.m. or that 1 p.m. time. So whether that is setting an alarm for yourself to remind you 5 minutes before, 10 minutes before to get ready, you need to make sure you have selected who is in your group. So you don't need to be doing this at 6 a.m. You can do it 10 minutes before 7 or whatever works for you. But starting an hour before, you'll have access to say, okay, these are the family members or these are the friends I'm with today. You'll have that on your app. And then right when that moment hits at 7 a.m. or 1 p.m., you need to be ready to enter it and say join that queue. But you also need to make sure you have good connection, whether that is through the cell phone to the towers or whatever, just on your cell service, or whether that's through Wi-Fi. If you have great Wi-Fi, go for it. If the Wi-Fi is a little shaky, go for the cell service. So you need to make sure that's working. Another tip is to keep an eye on a world clock that is giving you down to the second correct time. So whether that is you're pulling it up on a browser, on your laptop, maybe your phone has the time exactly right, maybe your Apple Watch does, whatever the case may be, you want to make sure you are starting to press that button right before things get started, and right at that moment, you want to make sure you are pressing it, not 2 seconds later, because you will miss it if that's the case. And it is possible if you're going with a group to have several of you trying this. If you have the Disneyland app, you can be on there and all of you have added each other, and so then you are trying together and one person will get it. And you're like, well, what if we hit it at the same time? No, someone will get it and then everyone else will say, hey, you already got it. So it will be a good thing. So let me break down what I did with Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. On the app, from the menu page, you will select Virtual Queues. Then it allows you to confirm your party. So you just want to make sure that your whole group is listed. Then you need to refresh that page when the clock hits 7 or 1. There is a refresh button at the bottom of the page. I recommend clicking on that button every few seconds leading up to the opening of the boarding group, because I swear if I don't click it for a minute or two then I click it, that first refresh seems to take a split second longer, and you will want every little tiny second on your side. If the boarding group hasn't filled up, a join button will appear. You then need to quickly hit that, and if you make it, you will get these little updates about how long until you can hop in the line. If you don't get it at 7 a.m., don't worry, you get to try again at 1 p.m. And the good news about the 1 p.m. time is that all those people who were successful in the morning, they don't get to go on the attraction twice, so they won't be trying for it. And the other good news is at 1 p.m., even though lots of people do take the time out to be ready, some people are on attractions, some people get caught up in their day, and so there might not be as many trying at that moment. So definitely, like I said, set a timer to remind yourself 10 minutes before, or be aware of where you're at in the park as far as, I don't want to get in line for this because I might be on the attraction right when 1 p.m. hits. So I'm going to wait a little bit, try and get in the virtual queue again, and then go on my next attraction. So then you can keep checking in the app. It will tell you when your group is going to be called, and then you will have an hour to go back to the attraction after that group has been called. So then you go back at that time, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have, it's not a fast pass or a lightning lane line. You are still going to be waiting in a line for a little bit, but it is more managed, as in not everyone in the park is going to the attraction at the same time. The way you can guarantee to have a bit of a shorter wait and also guarantee to get on the attraction without having to stress about the virtual queue is to buy a lightning lane. This isn't going to be included in Genie Plus at this time. This is a separate cost to buy for the attraction, and you would have to pay it for each person in the group. We don't know what costs they're going to currently go for this, and we know that the prices vary by day. But for example, for Rise of the Resistance, sometimes it's $20 a day for each person to go on it. So I would assume it would be similar for this attraction when it first opens, that you would be paying $20, $25 individually to go in that lightning lane. So that is an option if it doesn't work out for the virtual queue. And you can buy that lightning lane as soon as you enter Disneyland Park. And while Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway will be opening on January 27th, all of Toontown is not going to be opening until March 8th. But we are seeing some of the signs of how Toontown is changing, and one of those signs Disney released is the actual sign in Toontown outside of it. They've added kind of the look and feel of some of the characters onto the letters of the Toontown logo. Disneyland has also released some information about the costumes the cast members will be wearing for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway in Toontown. And these costumes are reversible, so if the cast member is working in the El Capitan theater portion of the attraction, they can look one way, but then if they are in the train barn for another section of the attraction, they can flip that costume inside out and look a little bit different and more to the story of the train. So very fun, and it looks like a great addition to Toontown. We also have confirmed that to see World of Color 1, the new version of World Color that will be starting on January 27th, you will also need to enter a virtual queue to see that. Now that does not happen at 7 a.m. and it does not happen at 1 p.m. It happens at noon, so clearly there's plenty of things to remember throughout your day if you want to hit all of these attractions. It won't be as stressful to get in this queue, but it still goes fast, so make sure you still set a timer for yourself or set that alarm clock to go off a little bit before noon. If you need to see World of Color 1 on a certain day, make sure you are ready to do that so you can get into that viewing area and have the best view possible. Now some very, very good news that Disneyland has been updating and things that I'm very excited about. Disneyland is making some changes that are going to make things a little bit more like Disneyland was 3 years ago and a little bit more flexible. So currently it's been the case that if you have a park hopper ticket, you still had to select which park you would start in, and you could not start hopping until 1 p.m. And for me, that was a little annoying in some ways because that means you are locking yourself pretty much for breakfast and lunch into one park. And if you had a really successful morning and hit maybe the 5 main attractions you wanted to over at Disneyland, you were still stuck at Disneyland until 1 p.m. Or if you were in California Adventure and had a good morning, same thing, you couldn't go over to Disneyland to try for other attractions. Or if it was maybe a bad morning and maybe the weather's making it so some attractions shut down, or maybe one of the big attractions you were trying for isn't running that morning, you can just switch over. So you still can't park hop right away. You still need to make a reservation for the park you're going to start in, but you can now start hopping at 11 a.m. So I think that's great news that you can now enjoy lunch in a different park after a couple of hours if you need to make a switch because you've been really successful, or maybe not enjoying it, you can make that switch. So that's going to be starting on February 4th, that if you have a park hopper ticket, you can hop starting at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So very, very good news. Also on February 4th, Disneyland is going to start to give guests some freebies, which I think are a great bonus and will add a lot to people's days, just in a fun way, that you will get the on-ride photos for the different attractions like Splash Mountain, as long as Splash Mountain's still around, Space Mountain, Incredicoaster, Guardians of the Galaxy, Radiator Springs Racers. Those are the attractions that have on-ride photos. If you go on those attractions, you will be able to download those digital photos for free, and it won't have the watermark on it or anything like that. So that is a fun little freebie Disneyland is going to be giving to guests starting on February 4th. Keep in mind that the regular PhotoPass photographers, you still need Genie Plus to get those included, but the attraction photos are going to be included for everyone starting on February 4th. Disneyland also announced that they were going to open up more Magic Keys for guests, and that is the replacement to the annual pass program. And Disneyland actually started doing that this week, where several levels of the Magic Keys were opened up, so they are letting guests buy those. So that is exciting news too for those people who for a while have been locked out, or who maybe tried to buy some and then they got closed down again. So at the time of making this video, it is still open, but Disneyland said at certain times they will stop selling those, and then depending on the availability, they'll open that up again. So if you're into that, check that out right away. Disneyland also released their Foodie guide for the 100 Years of Wonder celebration that is going to start on January 27th, with all the new food items that are coming to the various restaurants and outdoor vending carts. So there's a lot of options. I'm going to link their whole foodie guide in the description below, so definitely check that out. Some of the things that stood out to me include the platinum trifle, the lemon tea cake, the violet pretzel, which is a cream cheese filled pretzel drizzled with salted vanilla cream and lavender sugar, and the Disney 100 churro, rolled in cherry sugar, drizzled with white icing and topped with purple and silver pearls. Also, at the making of this video, we still don't know when Splash Mountain will close at Disneyland, but maybe as I post this, maybe they will announce it right away. But we don't know that yet, but we do know that over in New Orleans Square, the French Quarter is going to be closing, and it is going to be refurbed and becoming Tiana's Palace. Disney says, Tiana's Palace will be the newest restaurant on Orleans Street. Within its peach-colored walls and fancy green wrought iron balconies, you'll find elegant fixtures and appointments reminiscent of Tiana's life and friendships. The new Tiana's Palace will have much of the same pinch of pizzazz and flair as the restaurant from the film, offering authentic New Orleans flavors inspired by Tiana's friends and adventures in the quick-service style restaurant. Disney did clarify that Tiana's Palace will not be a character dining location. Of course, you might find Tiana wandering the streets of New Orleans Square, but it is still going to be a quick-service location, and some of the food items are going to be similar to what they've had in the past, but spruced up a little bit and maybe having a new theme just with naming and different things like that. But still that New Orleans style of food that has been there in that casual dining location. I think this is a fun update, and I think it will go well with the attraction. This place is already very popular, and the seating is usually pretty tight there. So I think this will just make people a little bit more excited to go there even more so. So you might be waiting a little bit longer, but I think this will be a good update and totally makes sense within the story. And one other update that we found out, the La Brera Bakery that has been in downtown Disney for over 20 years, it has shut its doors. And starting in February, the Earl of Sandwich is going to move over there. And they're going to have grab-and-go sandwiches like they have in the past. And they're also going to have a sit-down service area, like Earl's Tavern or something like that, where you can order the sandwiches more in a sit-down setting. So La Brera Bakery's gone for the time being. Earl of Sandwich is coming in, and then that will eventually close and make way for another restaurant. But if you love Earl of Sandwich, it's coming back. I know that was a ton of news, but hopefully it's going to help you on your next trip to make sure you get on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. And with all the changes that are coming to Disney lately, I feel like we're going to be doing some more of these updates. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel, because my hope is always to make your next Disney adventure a little bit more magical with tips and tricks, food reviews, and news. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see y'all again real soon. Bye.